Alright, so we're going to go through the whole series here of the morning routine based on the principle of irradiation. So radiation is a contraction, an isometric contraction that stimulates the nervous system and wakes us up, excites us. And so it also stimulates the opposite muscles and joints that we're not using, even though the contraction might be held on the right, it'll stimulate the left and so forth. All these principles are laid out in the functional range conditioning series. So this is the series that I do in the morning. Everybody does it a little bit differently. This is the one I do in the morning, and I start from the top down in a standing position. So irradiation, so I'm going to do about a 20% contraction through the feet, keeping the core tight. Okay? And I'm going to start by just rolling the neck. So I'm irradiating through the arms as well. And then I'm going to roll the neck. Okay? Nice and easy, and I'll probably do about 3 or 4 rotations in one direction. And then I'll switch. And in this morning routine, you're kind of exploring. You're finding if there's any tight spots. And if there is, then you might want to hover there a little bit. And neck circles to start out with. Then I move down the spine. So next up, then I go into my shoulder blades. Okay, so the scapular mobility. So again, I'm irradiating through both arms, irradiating through the legs, through the core. I'm going to come up, so I'm going to elevate the scapula, retract, okay? Depress the scapula, and then reverse. Elevate, protract, and depress. I'm going to take it there and back, okay? Just like a little U. Nice and easy, irradiating through the rest of the body. 3 or 4 times. Okay. Now we'll move into the shoulders. So I like to hit the shoulders first before I hit the rest of the spine, because the rest of the spine transitions me into the hips and into the knees. So now we'll go into the shoulders and arms. Okay? So this one I do individually or isolateral. So again, tighten through the base, tighten and radiate through the opposite arm. Okay, we're going to come through. Okay, so the palm is facing towards the body. Okay, so we're in a pronated position of the hand. Okay, I've got the irradiation. I'm going to reach up and through. Okay, then I'm going to twist into external rotation here as I reach back towards the wall. I'm still rotating. And then I'm coming all the way in. I think I said internal rotation, or external rotation, but I meant internal rotation on the way up and around. External rotation on the way up and back. Okay? So again, I'll back up a little bit here so we can see it. So radiation through the body, palm facing in, pronated. Up and through, internally rotating that arm as I reach back and come all the way in, and then reverse that into external rotation, reaching up and back and all the way in. Okay, I'm going to do it twice on that one. Now I'm going to go for this one, so radiation to the right side, left arm, moves up, reaches back into internal rotation, and reverses that. Coming back up out of it. One more time, up and through, reaching back, and then reversing and coming back. Had a little catch in there, so I might want to focus on that side this morning. A little catch in the shoulder. Okay, but we'll move on to the elbows next. Okay, so the elbow. Elbow joint is a hinge joint, so it's mostly flexion and extension, but the radius and ulna do radial and ulnarly deviate, as well as pronate and supinate. So there is some rotation through there. So we're going to focus on that motion. So this one's like a sweeping motion. So kind of think of it as an arc through my body here. So as I start with the palms open, okay, and you can do both sides at the same time. I come up and through, and then I push outside the shoulder. Then I'll rotate and push out, coming down through the middle and out to the hips. Okay? So if we've got any triathletes out there, that down part is kind of on the catch of the water, you're pushing out. Okay? So it's sweeping up through the body and then outside the shoulder, pushing down through the body and then outside the hip. Okay? Just of the elbow. And I'm doing both these at the same time. Okay, and then we'll let it relax. Moving on to the wrist. I isolate this one so I guard the radius and the ulna. Okay, so I guard the radius and the ulna to isolate the movement at the wrist. And I'll go through a full range of motion at the wrist. And it doesn't matter which direction you start, because we're going to go both clockwise and counterclockwise. So this one, I'm starting out going clockwise, and I'm taking it through the full range. Okay? Fingers are extended, but you can also keep them into a fist and flexed if you want to. So now I'll switch the direction, and now I'm going counterclockwise. Good. Now I'll do it on the other side. This one I'll start out clockwise again. With the other hand, it just guards movement, so it's not happening at the elbow. So you're getting as little translation of the radius and ulna as possible. And you're just articulating through the bones of the wrist. Remember, the morning irradiation routine is all about joint health. Let's switch the direction and taking that joint through the greatest range. Helping get some nutrients in there, stimulate the nervous system. So again, I'm irradiating through the legs as I'm doing this. Good. And you can isolate the digits too. I tend to move past that. That's the only joint I actually don't focus on in the morning. The digits are usually pretty active for me during the morning of any task, brushing the hair, toothbrush, eating, showering, whatever. The fingertips usually get pretty active, but if you're starting to develop any kind of tightness in the hands, then I would definitely do the fingertips as well. You can use those as well. So now we'll transition to the lower body, so now we'll get the spine. So here we'll radiate through the legs. Okay? I go into a cross position. Okay? So cross position, hands are just resting on the shoulders. I'm radiating down through both sides. Okay? You're going to start with a rotation and flexion. Okay? Now when I rotate and flex, try and prevent, so I'm going towards my left, dropping my right shoulder. But as I do that, I don't want my right hip to come forward with it. I want that to stay back. So it's just isolating the spinal movement there. Okay? So when I do this, I'm a little bit particular about the hand crossing. I usually cross with my right hand on top when I'm going to the right to start out with. And then when I come back, you'll see I'll switch to the left to come back. But you don't have to. That's just a preference that I have. So I'm going here. This kind of helps accentuate the right rotation. So again, I'm dropping right, trying to prevent that right hip from coming forward. Then I go into lateral side bend. Then I dip back and around into extension. This is kind of your matrix move. Coming all the way to the other side. Then I'll go into lateral side bend on that side. And then I'll flex and rotate, trying to prevent the left hip from coming forward. Okay? Then I'll gently switch here. And you can get a little bit more rotation with that switch. Then I'm going into side bending. Dipping up and around. Into side bending here. And into that flexion and rotation. Again, that right hip doesn't come forward. Switch again. Maybe I get a little bit more. And we'll come all the way back Radiating through the legs. There we go. So that gets pretty much the thoracic into the lumbar spine. Now we're ready to transition into the hips. So the hips, you can do those in all different positions. I'm going to do this one in standing. I like the standing position again. It'll take me all the way down to the knees and ankles, which I will do, and the toes, which I'll do in kneeling. So I'm standing for the hip. A little bit of bounce. If the bounce is a problem, then find something to hold on to. Okay, so a stick, barbell. In this case, I'd probably use the wall, but I'll see how my balance is this morning. Okay, but you don't want to make it a balance exercise. You want to make it a hip and joint mobility exercise. So you use something for a little bit of stability if you're finding that's a problem for you. So this one, you're going to come up into flexion. Okay. Then you're going to internally rotate to clear an imaginary hurdle off to the side, up and over that hurdle. Okay. Then we'll let it return back to the normal position. Okay. In reverse, you're going to extend. You're going to externally rotate to clear that hurdle. And then bring it back down and down. Okay, so I'm radiating through the left side. So again, lift, internally rotate, try and clear that hurdle, and then back down. And then reverse it the other way. Externally rotate. And then back down. Okay? So now I'll switch to the other side. Some radiation going on again. Again, flexion, internal rotation, up. Clear that imaginary hurdle. Back into extension. And then down, reset. Back into extension, externally rotate to clear that big hurdle. Up into flexion. And down one more time. Lift, internally rotate to clear that hurdle. And down. Extension, externally rotate. And down. Good. So that's the hip. Now we're going to move into the knee and ankle. So hopefully you guys can see me on this part. So the knee, you can guard, you can brace and guard the hip from moving. I usually just grab it. I've got pretty skinny legs. So you can do whatever you want. You want to try and keep the hip from rotating on this one. So you could do an arm block, through here to try and stop it. Or you can grab, whichever way you feel. I just grab, okay? So from here, I'm starting with the ankle dorsiflexed, okay? And for the most part, I keep the dorsiflexion in that ankle, but you can experiment with that. You can also do a plantar flexion, but I do a dorsiflexion, okay? I'll start with the ankle internally rotated. So even though we don't think of the knee having internal and external rotation, just like the elbow joint, there is a bit of play in the, in the fibula and the tibia. Okay, so there's a little bit of rotation and translation that goes on there, as we know, in the screw-home mechanism of the knee. So this one, you're going to start internally rotated. You're going to extend out, laterally rotate, externally rotate, and flex and come in. You're trying to go through that full range, so sit up nice and tall if you can't get all the way in for flexion. So extension out and lateral rotation now, medial rotation, and bring on in. My hands are guarding the hip from doing too much rotation, so I'm just trying to get translation of the tibia and the fibula. Okay? And I'll do one more. Good. So even though it's difficult in the seated position to irradiate, still want to keep the core tight. Still want to keep that core tight. Okay. So now I'll go to the other side. Again, I'll start medial rotation. Go into my knee extension. Lateral rotation. and then bring it in tight into flexion. And then reverse that. Medial, back on in. One more time. Still ankles in dorsiflexion. And then back the other way. Okay, so there's the knee. Okay. Now I'll come to the ankle. Okay, so the ankle, we will, with the ankle, we are going to dorsiflect and plantar flex, as well as inversion and eversion. So we're going to control the whole thing. So again, this one you're going to pull up on off. Okay, and then again, I hold here. And you can hold it in different ways, but again, I'm just bracing here. Okay, and you're going to go through the full circle. So just like the wrist, the same kind of joint, we're taking it through the full range. So I'm going down in clockwise fashion. I'm going plantar flexed between kind of 3 and 6, and dorsiflexed. Excuse me, plantar flexed between 9 and 3, and dorsiflexed between 3 and 9. And then we'll reverse it. So I'm going to reverse. Now I'm plantar flexing between 3 and 9, dorsiflexing between 9 and 3 in the counterclockwise position. Okay? And then I'll do the other side. So again, clockwise and counterclockwise. Full range. Might get some cricking and cracking. Hopefully those cricking and crackings get less and less as your morning irradiation routine continues to evolve. Okay, so before I hit the toes, which I do the toes in the morning routine. I'm going to come back and do one last thing for the knee, and that's the patellar lobes. Okay, so the flexion extension is good, but then sometimes we've got some restriction with the patella. So what I do, it's hard to tell here, but I put my thumbs on the top part of the patella, so closer to the body. And I put my index fingers on the bottom. Now, if you've got even a bigger patella than I do, mine are kind of diminutive, but if you've got even larger, then you can use your middle finger. But you basically are going to grab and bracket that patella, and then you're going to move it through its full range. And don't hesitate to put a little bit of pressure through its full range. Okay? You're going to get some catches in there. That's fine. Just do a little exploration. Work your way through some of those catches as you take it through its circles. And you'll usually do about 3 or 4 in one direction. And then switch it and do 3 or 4 in the other direction. If you've got a little catching, then you hover there for a little while. Okay? I'll go ahead and get the other side as well. Now, even when doing something simple like the patellar lobes, radiating through the core, a light irradiation through the rest of the body. Okay. So now we'll get the toes. So the toes is a little bit more unique. I'm going to actually adjust the camera here down a little bit, so maybe you can see the toes a little bit better. Okay, so the toes I do in kneeling. You can do these in standing. Some people actually sit back on their back foot like this. Okay? I do that too, but I'm not a big yogi, and so I don't quite have the flexibility to hang back there forever. But we'll start here, okay, in this position. So I'm actually sitting on my back foot. Okay? So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and isolate the movement of both the big toe and the other 4 toes. Okay? So if you're a runner or a dancer, then perhaps you've already done this component of it. If you need the assistance, okay, then you will hold down the others from trying to move. Okay. But right now I'm going to try and basically lift my big toe up only. And I've gotten better over the time. And then I'm going to try and lift up my other 4. Okay, while the big toe stays down. And that's not a perfect isolation by any means, but enough that I don't think I'll need to hold down today. So I just go big toe isolated and lift, and then other 4 isolated and lift. Yeah? Then after that, then what I'll do is I'll do kind of like an accordion, like a piano. So I'll start to try and lift 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then I'll put down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? 5 being the pinky toe. So again, I'll try and lift 5. Now when they kind of all came up together. And then big toe. And then I'll slowly lower them down 1 at a time. Then I'll try and do that in reverse. So now I'll try and lift big toe first, then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Then I'll try and put down 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm a little bit better at that movement, going that way. So again, slowly controlling 1 at a time. Then I'll just lift and try and fan. So I'll try and separate the toes, all of them, try and separate them, and then let them come down. I'll do that a couple times, just separating the toes. And then I'll switch over to the other side. So I was actually, being on this rug, I was actually comfortable enough to hold that ankle position on the back ankle as I sat down. So I think I'll try again on this side. Okay, so on this side, again, we'll start with the toe, the big toe, trying to isolate the movement of the big toe. Okay. This one's a little bit less control. So I'm going to hold down those other 4 where I lift the big toe, and then down. And let's see if I can lift the other 4. Not really. So then I'll lift the other 4, and down. So again, big toe, and down, and other 4, and down. Okay, so now try the piano. So let's start by lifting 5, 4, and they all came up together. Then 1, now putting down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And reverse it again. Yeah, see, all 4 want to lift for me. So I've got to work some on that control there. And then down 1, 2. Okay? So now we'll switch. So now the big toe lifts first, then the other toes, and then slowly bring them down. And again, big toe, I've got better control of it this way. And then pinky toe down. Come all the way down. Then a few lifts and separates. Really try and separate all the toes. Digit 5, my pinky toe does not want to move that well. Some of you CrossFitters and some of you endurance athletes even have been using spacers, and that's good to help trying to get those toes out wide. The only downside sometimes of using the spacers is that it puts the muscles on stretch. So that's why it's still very important to do joint health and mobility moves like this to wake up those muscles. Try and control that motion yourself. So there you go. So that's a full body irradiation. Without me talking through, it should take about 15 to 18 minutes. I think this video ended up running about 22, 24 minutes, but I think you can fly through about 18 minutes, 12 minutes top to body, or just isolate certain parts. A lot of you guys are coming off of injuries. I'm shooting this video for a friend of mine who plays baseball, and so he uses it a lot for his spine, a little bit of shoulder, but knees and hips, and so he kind of plays around with whatever area is bothering him that day, but he uses it a lot before he swings and hits, and so but that's the morning routine, top to bottom. In the next series of videos that we'll release, we'll go ahead and break down each of the joints independently and some of my favorites to doing that. But the great thing about functional range conditioning and Ken stretch type movements is that your imagination is pretty much, you can take it the gamut in terms of holding isometric holds at end range and some techniques and ideas that I'll be teaching you guys later in the next series. There it is.